ॐ कूजन्दं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् यस्य ज्ञानप्रभवमतुलं रामचन्द्रस्य मोहं दूरीकृत्वा सकलजगदामद्वयं घोषितं च तं योगीन्द्रं निगमनिलयं ब्रह्मणः पुत्ररूपम् आनन्दाब्धिं गुरुवरमहं श्रीवसिष्ठं प्रपद्ये। Namaste. Welcome to yet another interesting episode of Yoga Vasishta. I am Dileep and this online colloquium is brought to you by Tadvanam Ashramam as part of its Mahashivarathri celebrations, which is going to happen on March 8th at the Tadvanam Ashramam, Kalladikkode. In the previous episodes we saw about Rama and his dejection, how Rama got into a mental state where he wanted to renounce the world, and sage Vishwamitra arrives and with his help and the help of Guru Vasishta, Rama is slowly recovering from that mental state, and Vasishta is giving him advices about the real self, which is helping Rama to attain his normal composure. We saw how Vishwamitra told about the story of Shuka to Rama. Later on, Vasishta starts off by explaining to him about the reality of the world, by telling the story of Leela. Vasishta explains to him that this world has no reason. If you start reasoning it, you will end up nowhere. We saw how Leela and Padma they got various births, and how Padma, who was dead 8 days ago as the Brahmin, was living here for years as Padma, and the day after his departing, he was in a kingdom where he was ruling for 16 years. So the time and space continuum that we generally call it is a projection of the mind which does not follow any particular pattern that we generally assume it would follow. So after Leela's story, we come to the Sujyopakhyaana, where the Rakshasi Karkati was turned into Vishuchika, and she does penance and liberates her soul. She finds the king and asks the questions which are thought-provoking, and they become friends, and she goes back into her normal way of life after attaining the Atmajnana. Then we talked about the Shambharika Upakhyaana, which was explained by Vasishta to Rama to demonstrate how this world appears like a magic which is being spelled by a magician, and how Lavana, the king, he ends up becoming a Chandala and leading that life at the wave of a peacock feather. We left our storytelling over there. Now, one of the important and very beautiful verse that Vasishta tells at the beginning of Lavanobakhyana, which is the next one, we'll start with that. So Vasishta says, Yat kritam manasa nama tat kritam vidhi raghava. Yat tyaktam manasa tavat tat tyaktam vidhi raghava. O Raghava, O Rama. Whatever is being done by the mind, consider it as done. Whatever is being done by whatever is being sacrificed or rejected by the mind, given away by the mind, consider it as sacrificed. So, this is something which we need to ponder over. There is a reason why Vasishta tells this to Rama. We will come to that later. But generally, what we perceive as done is something which the body does. The body, whatever it does, we consider that as done. Mind, we generally ignore. But here, Vasishta says, what the mind does is what is done. What the mind gives away or rejects or detaches is what is given away. This is a change in the perspective that we generally see things. There are numerous examples for this in the scriptures. There is one story which I remember from Bhagavata, where Vyasa wanted to cross the river, and he comes to the bank of the river, where there are certain gopis also standing. So the gopis were also not able to cross the river because of because there was no boat service at that time. It was quite late. So Vyasa asks the gopis that, okay, you give me the butter that is there in your pots, and I will make you cross this river. And he eats all the butter, and he says to the river, if I haven't eaten this butter, please give way to these people. And to everybody's surprise, the river departs and there is a way through the middle of the river. He said, after eating the butter, that if I haven't eaten the butter, please give way. They go to the other bank. When they return, again the same problem is there, that they cannot come back. There is no boat service. Again Vyasa comes and Vyasa says, if Krishna is Nitya Brahmachari, let the water depart and give way. And it does happen so. This is a story, but the inner meaning of this story is very much in line with what we are currently discussing. Vyasa ate all of them, but he never felt that he did. His mind was not there. So even if he did, it is not done. That is why he says, Yat kritam manasa rama tat kritam. What is done by the mind is the only thing that is done. This is the reason why earlier we told that the Jivan Muktas might work in ways that you would think they are normal. There won't be any difference. The only difference is in the mind. There, they do not have the feeling that I am the doer. In a similar fashion, what is rejected by the mind, that is the one which is rejected. They might be using all the facilities that people would think as luxury, but they have no attachment towards it. They do not think that this is mine, this is luxury and I am using it. I become rich, I become poor. All these sankalpas of the mind are not present for them. Hence, they do not have any impressions. Hence, it cannot be considered as being done. Think about this. What the worldly activities that you see around, as long as you can make your mind not attached to it, you can get your mind out of it, which in Gita it says karma bhala tyaga, or the detached work, nishkama karma. What we are discussing is a little higher plane of it, but that is the starting point if you want to practice this. So Vasishta says what is done by the mind is the thing that you can consider as done. If it is done without the mind being present, it cannot be considered as done. Similarly, what is renounced by the mind is the thing that is renounced. The bodily renunciation does not matter in the Advaitic Vedantic philosophy. The bodily renunciation is a step for sure. Sannyasa is a step. But even in Gita it is clearly said that just by sannyasa one does not get siddhi. Nacha sannyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchati. You have to renounce the bodily activities, you have to detach yourself to show to the world and to give that affirmative to yourself that I have renounced. If that is not required, it is not required. You can very well live in the world in a detached form using all the facilities of the world, but without the feeling that I am enjoying it. It is by prarabdha that you are doing it. That's it. So with this story, with this preface, Vasishta gets into the details of the story of Lavana further. Because Rama was curious to know what happened to Lavana, why was this Indrajalika or the magician, why did he come and what was the purpose? So Vasishta continues that the Lavana was a person who did Rajasuya, and he did the Rajasuya not externally, he did it in mind. So now you can correlate with what was earlier told. He did the Rajasuya in his mind. He did it without spending any of his resources, I would say. He collected all the resources in his mind. He collected the wealth and he collected the cows. He collected whatever is required inside the mind. And he performed it luxuriously inside the mind, without any difficulty, without the scarcity of any resources. He could complete the Rajasuya in his mind. And it is said that once you perform a Rajasuya, you are bound to have 12 years of struggle. This is a belief and this is a fact. So Lavana was bound to experience this 12 years of sorrow because he did the Rajasuya. See, when it is said that when he did that Rajasuya in his mind, he got the result of the Rajasuya yajna, the sacrifice. And when he gets the result, obviously the effects of the result also has to be borne. So he was to undergo 12 years of struggle. In order to avoid that, this Indrajalika or the magician was sent by the Devas, and Lavana was subjected to 12 years of struggle again in the mind. So the Rajasuya happened in the mind, the result naturally he would get, and to avoid the 12-year period of struggle, that also was done within seconds by sending this magician. But remember that even then he got the feeling of experiencing that completely. So this is the reason why this Indrajalika or the magician came and displayed all this magic and disappeared. So it was a messenger from the gods. Now Vasishta again continues. See, the way in which this whole thing is written is that you will have the stories in middle and you will have the actual message also delivered, so that people do not get bored. So Vasishta says that the mind in this particular case was the reason for Lavana to gain the result of Rajasuya, and the mind itself was the reason for him to get rid of the 12 years of struggle period. That is why I earlier told that mind is, whatever is done by the mind is the one which is done, and whatever is renounced, detached, given away by the mind is the one which is renounced. You have to cut away your mind by using vichara. Vichara is the tool through which you will have to slice away the mind completely, so that you would be able to gain a state of mindlessness, thoughtlessness, which in itself is called mukti. Now, once this happens, even if the mind is there, it would be chinmaya. It would be glowing with the real knowledge. And after a while, you will be able to renounce that also. Get rid of that also. So as the vichara progresses, your mind becomes chinmaya, and after a while you will be able to completely get rid of the interventions of the mind. The problem, the enemy, that is what Vasishta uses. The enemy of the mind is the bhinna sankalpas. The multitude of sankalpas or imaginations is the enemy. The mind is always moving, it is chanchala. It moves from one place to another and it engages in one activity after another. Once you make the mind steady, once this chanchalatva of the mind disappears, then the truth becomes clear to you as the daylight. So why is the mind moving? Because that is the nature. It is being driven from one place to another by the vasanas. Now here again Vasishta gives a lot of examples to see to demonstrate how the mind is chanchala. We have to use our courage, our paurusha, to look at the thoughts, and as and when it arises, we have to compare it with the truth which we have learnt from the texts or scriptures or Guru. Guru says Brahma Satyam. So when a thought comes, you have to analyze that. You have to be in the Sakshi Bhava, or as a witness, you have to compare it with the actual truth that has been told to you to see if this is it or not. And you will realize it is not. And you will have to reject it or renounce it. It is not very easy. It is a time-consuming process. But it is an abhyasa. It is a practice. Through this practice, slowly you will be able to understand that you where the thoughts are coming from and what is the root of the thought. So every time a thought comes, you will have to clear that using the truth. Now the vasanas are the reasons for the mind to act. There are vasanas for enjoyment, the vasanas for seeing the duality, vasanas for the birth and death. All these are the malina vasanas. You have to remove them by bhava advaita practice. You have to see Advaita everywhere. Try to see Advaita everywhere. Try to see things around you in a different light, as your own self, as abhinna or undivided from your nature. Once you start practicing it, the duality or the friction that it causes would reduce, at least. So slowly you would feel that that path is actually making you happier, calmer. You suppose you have got a great anger on somebody. That is the moment when you can practice this. That is the time when you can see how your mind is acting. Where is this anger coming from? It is coming because I and he did that to me. Why would he do that to me? I have done so many favors to him. Why would he do that? Once you start seeing that he is nothing but me, would you be angry on the same lines? At least it will reduce. It will improve your life, even physically, in the material world. But always remember, that is not the goal of this. Advaita practice is not intended to live the world happily. It is intended to leave the world happily. Again, I repeat, it is not intended to live the world happily, it is intended to leave the world happily. If you can leave the world and still be happy, that is what the ultimate aim is. And that will happen only if you realize that this world is non-existent. Then you wouldn't be confused whether to leave it or not. Are you ever sad? Maybe in childhood, when there is a sweet dream, you would be sad if you leave that dream. But generally people wouldn't cry because they woke up from the dream. Do they? No. In a similar fashion, a person who has realized this world to be another long dream, Dirgha Swapnam Imam Vidhi. This is a long dream. Once a person realizes that this is a long dream, he wouldn't bother to have it or leave it. Both are okay. As long as you are in the dream, it's fine. But he knows that this doesn't matter. What matters is somewhere else. I have found it. Vedahametam Purusham Mahandam. I have known that great Purusha. Vedas tell this. It's the ecstatic song from the Vedas of a person who has realized and understood that I have really found what lies beneath this. His joys find no bound, and he sings out of it, that ecstasy. Those are the Vedas. Anyways, coming back to our topic, here after telling all this Lavana story to Rama, Vasishta gives another important advice, which I think is the key message for today. He says, Naham brahmeti sankalpat sudridhat badhyate manah. Sarvam brahmeti sankalpat sudridhat muchyate manah. This is very, very important and crucial statement, which is giving the hint, clue to how to practice the Bhava Advaita. So it is very important for us, the seekers. Naham Brahmedi Sankalpat. The Sankalpa, we told that we have to renounce the Sankalpa of the mind. But here Vasishta is coming back to the Sankalpa. This is a bit confusing. Okay, but then I'll try to explain why. Na aham Brahma iti. I am not Brahma iti Sankalpa. With that imagination, Sudrithat, that strong imagination, Badhyade mana, mind is tied or mind becomes entangled. Sarvam Brahmedi Sankalpat Sudrithat. If the mind can firmly imagine everything as Brahma, Muchyate mana. Naham Brahmedi Sankalpat Sudridhat Badhyate mana. Sarvam Brahmedi Sankalpat Sudridhat Muchyate mana. I told earlier that Rama had this misconception that mind has to be killed. It is the enemy. I have to get rid of this mind somehow. But Vasishta comes back, tells, wait. You have to get rid of the mind, but then not just like that. It is not possible for people. You might say it, but it will come again. Because this ahankara will remain in the body as long as the body exists. Unless you make it your slave, you wouldn't be able to lead that life where the mind is absolutely not bothering you. And mind may exist also later. It is just that you are not bothered about it. You understand that is jada. That is not something which is active. It is dead. So Vasishta says that the same mind which is the cause for liberation, the bondage itself is the cause for liberation too. How? If your mind imagines that I am not Brahman, I am this, I am that, I am so and so, I am from this country, whatever that is. Your mind, the moment it identifies your nature with something which is not your nature, something which is jada. Jada means inert or dead. According to Vedantic philosophy, the body, mind, intellect, ahankara, everything is jada. Now that is why Nirvana Shatka, it is said, I am not, neither the body, nor the mind, nor the ahankara, nor the chitta. So once your mind identifies yourself with this jada or the inert things, that is the reason for the bondage. Na aham brahma iti sankalpat sudrithat. This sankalpa has been impregnated in our body from the birth or even before that as vasanas, right? So this is thick and dense. So you have a firm conviction about that I am not Brahman. That is the reason for your bondage. If the same conviction, the same strength can be brought into imagining yourself as Brahman and everything as Brahman, that will lead to liberation. Sarvam Brahma iti. Everything is Brahman. If that conviction is strong enough, that is enough to get you out of this bondage and give you liberation. This is a very thought-provoking and very useful for common man, and it's an assurance that the liberation and the bondage is in your own hands. Even Gita says this, right? One has to uplift oneself by oneself. It all hints to the same fact that you are the reason for your own bondage and your own liberation. There is nobody else external who can help it. A guru is essential, but without your effort, probably that does not work. Hence, it gives an assurance that you can get liberated by your effort. It gives a responsibility also on you that you have to try for your own liberation, otherwise blame nobody else. So, this verse is something which is very thought-provoking. Keep that in your mind always. So, after this, Vasishta continues to explain about the 7 levels or stages of mind in both ignorance and knowledge. So there are 7 levels. It is called Bhumika, where the mind travels through in both ignorance and knowledge. It is not that you move from ignorance to knowledge just like jumping from one branch of tree to another. It is a step-by-step process, even for the mind. And once you hear this, you would be amused to see how meticulous the observation skills of our rishis were. How they were able to go to the granularity of how the mind operates and discover the truth behind it. How they were able to uncover layer by layer each of these activities of the mind and understand its true nature. It is not that they did some imaginary philosophy and they fitted everything to suit that philosophy. They did the experimentation. They did research by observing. It was a very scientific way of handling an experiment. So anyways, the 7 stages of ignorance are Bija Jagrat, Jagrat, Mahajagrat, Jagrat Swapnam, Swapnam, Swapna Jagrat and Sushupti. I will repeat the 7 levels of Ajnana. The 7 bhumikas of Ajnana, ignorance, are Bija Jagrat, Jagrat, Mahajagrat, Jagrat Swapnam, Swapnam, Swapna Jagrat and Sushupti. What are each of these? We will come to that. Bija Jagrat is the level in which your ahankara first gets out as a spark, as a spanda, as a momentary impulse. Always you have the bodha, the consciousness. In the consciousness, arises the I impulse. That is called ahankara. This is the root or the seed of the Jagrat. This is the seed of the world. This is the seed of the mind, the chitta, the ahankara, everything. So this is called Bija Jagrat, because in that the whole world, the Jagrat, is preserved like the tree in a seed. So the first bhumika of Ajnana is Bija Jagrat, where the whole world is put up as a seed, as the impulse that is originating in your heart as I. Then comes the Jagrat, which is the projection of the world from this Bija Jagrat, from your mind. In the Jagrat level, your mind sees the world. It appears to your mind, it projects from your mind. The mind creates the world as it wants, based on its vasanas, which are pre-stored. We saw in the story of Padma, right? How the mind creates another Leela. Because he was devoted to this Leela, the mind creates another Leela. So in the Jagrat, the mind projects into the world. The third one is Mahajagrat. In the Mahajagrat, the me and mine comes. So the mind attaches itself, identifies itself as the body, as this. And if this is there, then it should be there. So I and mine, me and mine, comes into play when the Mahajagrat comes. The Bhedas, the splits start occurring. The Advaita occurs. In Jagrat, it is just that the world is projected. So only the difference is between yourself and the world. You haven't still identified yourself as this body to the Jada. In the Mahajagrat, you will start identifying yourself as the body. You will differentiate things, that this is my kid, this is his kid, or this is my camera, that is his, this is my body, that is his. This duality multiplies in the Mahajagrat. That is why it's called Mahajagrat, the great waking state. The next one is Jagrat Sopnam. When you have this and mine, that will lead to Raga and Dvesha, the desire to have and the desire to renounce or reject. So this Raga and Dvesha will lead to lot of desires in the mind. That I should have that, I should have this, I should have a house, a vehicle, whatever. I should have health, kids, wealth, any desire that comes, and your mind will start dreaming about it. This is called Jagrat Sopnam. Sopnam means dream and Jagrat is waking. You start dreaming about your future, your career, your business, your health, your old age. All these things are the Jagrat Sopnam. Most of the insurance companies live on Jagrat Sopnam because they give you this, that once you become 80 years old, you will get this and that. So Jagrat Sopnam is the state in which the mind, this is the Ajnana Bhumika again. Don't get deviated. All these are Ajnana Bhumikas, the ignorant path. In Jagrat Sopnam, your mind tries to want things that it does not have. So rather than enjoying what you have, it always goes behind what it does not have. This is the Jagrat Sopna. And as these passes, right, you also would have realized that the ajnana becomes thicker, denser, darker. When the world was projected, it was easier. You just take the projection back. But when the I and mind comes, it is even harder. When you have desires to fulfill, it is even harder. As we progress, it becomes harder and harder to get it back into the normal state, the sahaja swabhava. Anyways, after Jagrat Swapnam is the Swapnam, which are the dreams that you see in the night when you are sleeping. These are the desires which are unfulfilled. So you have a lot of desire, you dream about it, you work towards it, but then still some get unfulfilled, and these comes as dreams in your mind, in your sleep. This is called the Swapna Avastha. And the sixth one is Swapna Jagrat. Swapna Jagrat is the dream that is staying long with you, a long unfulfilled dream that gives you, that makes your dream as a waking state, which means that you would often get that dream again and again and again, that it becomes another reality for you. The desires which are in the Jagrat Swapna will come as dreams in the Swapna which are unfulfilled, and the ones which are long unfulfilled will stay with you forever, and they will make it another reality. You will have another reality, a virtual reality in which you will always be eager to get that long unfulfilled desire. This is called Swapna Jagrat. And the last one is the Sushupti, where it is completely the mind is not there, but the seeds of the future dukkhas, the future sorrows are stored in the Sushupti Avastha. Sushupti is the seventh bhumika in the all these stages that has been covered. So in Sushupti we have the seeds for the future sorrows stored. So I repeat again, we have the Bija Jagrat, Jagrat Swapna, Swapna Jagrat, Bija Jagrat, Jagrat, Mahajagrat, Jagrat Swapna, Swapna Jagrat, and the last one is Sushupti. These are the seven Ajnana Bhumikas, or the ignorant levels of the mind. Now this is very crucial and important for all of us to understand this, how the mind operates, how the mind travels from one level to another, and how our desires, our swapnas, our long unfulfilled desires are going to impact us. So from that angle, these Ajnana Bhumikas are very important to understand. Today we covered very important principles. We covered the story of Lavana, which was just a small story about the remaining portion of how Lavana ended up with the magician. But more than that, lot of principles that are very crucial for the Advaitic Vedantic way of life, which are practical, which are to be taken up seriously by any aspirant in order to get him the real peace of mind, the real nature of the self, and ultimate happiness. In the upcoming session, we would cover the Jnana Bhumikas, the 7 levels of the Jnana, how we end up towards the Jnana after we renounce all these Ajnana Bhumikas, how we ascend towards the knowledge. That will be covered in the next episode, and I hope you would be remembering the advice which is given by Vasishta to Sri Rama. Please keep reiterating that Naham Brahmeti Sankalpat Sudridhat Badhyate Manah Sarvam Brahmeti Sankalpat Sudridhat Muchyate Manah. Keep telling your mind to see everything as Brahman, and you are sure to achieve liberation. This is an assurance given by the great sage Vasishta, by the great text Yoga Vasishta, and we will see you again tomorrow with the remaining portion of the Yoga Vasishta, the 7 Jnana Bhumikas, and some more interesting stories. So until then, Namaste, Hari Om Tat Sat.